Brianna, thanks so much for coming on the Scholarship GPS podcast. I've been looking forward to our conversation for a while. If you would, I gave a brief introduction before we hit our record here, but if you would give us an introduction, tell us who you are and how you got into the world of college admissions advising.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. My name's Brianna Angelucci. I am the owner of Level Up Admissions Advising, which is a private college consulting company. I started this project probably during COVID, but I've been involved in the world of college admissions and education for over 20 years, actually. I started as a high school teacher, and I was very involved even early in my career, helping students with their college essays when I was teaching high school. And I eventually moved into the college realm as an adjunct professor and working in admissions. So I've been doing this for, like I said, over 20 years, and then started my consulting side during COVID.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I have seen your bio in a few different places, and you've kind of hit so many different aspects of the academic and college world. So definitely, you have some great experience. So we're in, it's winter still, but we technically spring semester, and people who maybe hadn't been thinking about planning for college or the college prep process might be starting to think about that. So one of the first things I wanted to ask you was, how early should students be thinking about preparing for college admissions? What's your advice there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, families can really start a lot earlier than they assume.
Hmm.
Most students think they should wait until senior year, honestly, when they start working on this, but they can start as early as ninth grade.
Yeah.
And the earlier you start, the better prepared you're going to be. So in ninth and 10th grade, it's really all about building interests, exploring activities, extracurricular activities, and also really focusing, people don't realize this, but kind of solidifying a foundational writing skill set. One of
Hmm.
the most underrated ways that students can really prepare in those early years of high school is just reading and writing more, just for fun. Reading
Love that.
novels, biographies, whatever interests you, because that naturally improves your vocabulary and your writing style and your
Hmm.
critical thinking. And these are all really, really important as you get into the later years of high school. And then junior year is really that get organized year.
Yeah.
So that's when students really want to start paying attention to the activities that they're involved in that really feel meaningful to them. So it's going to be a little bit more intentional than those exploration years of ninth and 10th grade. Really start thinking about, leadership opportunities and things
Hmm.
like that. And of course, they can start exploring colleges at that time too in 11th grade. And certainly test prep is a big part of that. And then, senior year, that's when you hit the ground running. That's all about execution that year. But really, it's never too early to start.
Yeah, I love that and kind of that funnel approach that you kind of alluded to, where freshman year, like do all the things, kind of figure out what you like, cut a few
Yep.
things away, maybe sophomore year. By junior year, you should hopefully be really deeply involved in a few activities that are meaningful for you, and try to scope out some of those leadership opportunities that either you could get into immediately or maybe senior year. And then the other piece, which I love that you said, is reading and writing. I've had a lot of SAT experts come on, and they always give that advice. I've had like Jackie Polina from J&J Test Prep, and
Yep.
she said that she knows based on the scores from the students which students read for pleasure and which don't. She's almost 100% right. She can just tell from the scores, and
100%. It really does go hand in hand.
yeah, yep, absolutely. And I'll even say it helps with scholarships as well. Both of those things, understanding your interest and having some history of involvement gives you things to talk about in your scholarship essays, and the reading gives you that depth and, like you said, build your vocabulary so you can be a better writer, which is critical for scholarship success. So
Absolutely.
love
Yep.
that. Well, given that you've been in this for a little while, what are some of the common mistakes that you see students, families, parents making when it comes to the college planning process, maybe applications and things like that?
Sure. One of the biggest mistakes I see is really approaching the college application process like a list of achievements
Hmm.
instead of a personal introduction.
Hmm.
Because if you think about it, admissions officers already have your resume or your list of activities. So they're really trying to find out more and find that human being behind their list of achievements.
Yep.
So really finding a way to highlight who you are that makes you individual, makes you unique. With essays specifically, something that I see when I first start working with students is trying to sound impressive, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants that, of course,
Sure.
but then you lose the authenticity piece of it. So students, they want to write about their awards or their accomplishments, but again, admissions already knows that from your
Yep.
application. So really focusing on reflection and growth is what they want to see. And then another pitfall is, I touched on this earlier, but waiting too late to get started.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
never too soon, and you don't want to rush that process. So,
Hmm.
just again, getting started earlier rather than later.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And I find that same thing on the scholarship side with the essays that students want to cram every single accomplishment and achievement and experience into their essays.
Yes,
And I will say on the scholarship side, it may be a little more appropriate because many scholarships don't have the other pieces that the college
sure.
admissions offices do. So that can be a little more important. And that's probably the biggest difference between admissions essays and scholarship essays. But even then, they still want to get to know the student at a more personal and you know like values type level. So yeah,
Absolutely. I think, even if you're tying in some of those accomplishments and you want to mention them, being able to tie it to a value or a
yeah,
growth opportunity is really what's going to make that difference.
yep, absolutely. Well, that kind of leads into what my next question was going to be, which is, what is it that makes an essay stand out? And maybe we can. I'll let you touch on that, but maybe in light of the fact that so many schools have gone test optional, where that piece of the equation, at least at some colleges, has been taken off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about that. With so many schools being test optional, the essay is really more important than it ever has been. Um, and, like I mentioned before, a great essay really is about that self-reflection, not so much about a dramatic event in your life.
Hmm.
There's really three things that I tell my students college admissions are looking for. And that's what we kind of try to highlight when I'm working with the student is self-awareness, personal voice, and then evidence of growth. So if you
Okay.
have those three things, you're really going to have a strong essay. A lot of students think that they need a tragic story or this
Hmm.
dramatic event in their life or a huge accomplishment, but you don't. All types of students belong at college and have different life experiences. What colleges really are looking for is that insight for students to talk about who they are, be
Hmm.
authentic, and approaching if they do have, a difficulty or a challenge that they want to talk about, how they've overcome that
Yeah.
and what that taught them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and I see that on the scholarship side as well, and even from the aspect of like trying to find particular scholarships, like you're in some of the same Facebook groups I'm in, and you'll often see parents saying, "Is there a scholarship for?" And then it's maybe like a medical diagnosis or
Yep,
somebody's gone through something, and there almost always is. And so I'm happy to share those scholarships with people who are looking for them, but I always try to caution them, okay, great, you found this scholarship and you've eliminated a lot of the competition. Now you look like everybody else that's competing. So you still have to have that, what I call a personal narrative, right?
absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
a great
it's the
point.
same with getting into college. I mean, if you want to talk about some of those things you overcome, that great, but like you said, you need to have that growth aspect to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that self-reflection piece is what's hard a lot of times for high school students.
Yeah. Yep.
They're just not used to doing that or
Yep.
approaching writing that way. So it is different for them.
Yep. Well, what about quote average students? And maybe average could be quote academically, or maybe it's an average student that has not really overcome some great, obstacle or tragedy. How do they approach the college essay and application process?
Sure. And to be honest, I have a lot more students in that category than in
Hmm.
the exceptional or standing out category in that
Yeah.
way. It's very common, and honestly, some of the best essays that I've read and worked on with students come from those everyday experiences.
Hmm.
Experiences working at a job, family traditions, moving, a hobby that grew into something meaningful down the road. So things that students don't necessarily think are interesting really can be if you approach it the right way.
Hmm.
One of my favorite things about working with students individually on their essays is really kind of guiding them through that brainstorming process and helping them discover that story.
Hmm.
Because every student I've worked with has a story and has something to say. It just takes a while to dig in and find that sometimes.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I love that. Well, we mentioned the fact that some colleges are moving away from requiring SAT or ACT scores. What are some of the other kind of changes in the college admissions landscape that you have seen maybe over the last few years and are seeing right now?
Sure. Admissions has definitely become more holistic than ever. We hear that word holistic all the time, and we've heard it for a long time in admissions, but now more than ever, it really rings true with the test optional policies, because college admissions has become a lot more unpredictable due to that.
Hmm.
So, continuing with these test optional policies means that GPA, essays, your course rigor in high school, your activities, all of that matters even more than it ever did.
Right.
Um, but we're also seeing, the biggest thing I think everyone's talking about right now is these conversations around AI and what that means for college
Hmm.
admissions. So, what is allowed, what isn't, and what admissions views are on AI generated writing. And what I tell my students is, my stance on this, that AI can be a great brainstorming tool, but
Hmm.
not a writing tool.
Hmm.
And admissions readers are really trained to spot generic and artificial writing.
Yeah.
They want that authenticity that I mentioned. So, that's something that I work on with students because it is so new and it's changing, and not everyone really knows how to approach it or how to use it responsibly. So, I teach my students how to use AI responsibly in that brainstorming piece,
Hmm.
and then really how to find their own voice to complete the writing on their own.
I love that. It seems like there's kind of two extremes, and I like that you have found more of a middle ground where you have some people are like, don't use AI, period, end of story. And then other people, unfortunately, are using AI to write their essays. And um, I think that you're approaching it from the right perspective. Um, just to kind of stay on that AI theme for a minute,
Sure.
one of the things I see parents and students sometimes think or ask about is do I need to, for lack of a better word, dumb down my essay? Maybe make a few punctuation mistakes or a little bit of bad grammar just to prove it wasn't AI generated. Do you have thoughts on that?
I do. That comes up so much in the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Parents are always asking about that. And to be honest, my advice is the same now as it always has been. Put your best foot forward always.
Hmm.
Colleges don't want to see, typos, grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes. They still want to see polished writing.
Yeah.
And dumbing down, quote unquote, the
Hmm.
writing isn't the way to approach AI. You really, again, you want to build from the ground up with that authentic story, not try to remove the AI voice after the fact. That's just going to set
Yeah.
yourself up for failure.
Yeah. Yep. Um, just one more kind of tangential thing on that. You don't consider like a spell check or a grammar check AI, correct?
I don't. I know that
Yeah.
there are grammar tools like Grammarly, for example, gives suggestions, but then it takes it that next step further and gives you suggestions on changing your word choice or your tone.
Yeah. Yep.
That's where it gets dangerous. But
Yes.
but simple spell checks and grammar checks have been around, 30 years at this point.
Yeah, been around since even I was a kid, so
Yep.
that tells you like they're ancient. Well, Brianna, this has been awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about how you work with families? And I know that there's a couple different avenues that you work with families now. So I'd love to hear about both of
Absolutely.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. So, I really offer two different options and two different levels of support for families. The first one I'll talk about is Level Up Admissions Advising, and that's my private consulting company. So, that is a one-on-one consulting relationship that I set up where I will personally work with students over Zoom. And we can work on anything that the student needs. I offer a lot of different options from essay support to full service, hold your hand through the whole process kind of support. So that
Okay.
could look like building a college list, working on supplemental essays, strategizing their activities list, just helping them with deadlines. Um, Prepping for interviews. Sometimes it even is meeting with the parents to help them, guide them in their process with the students and how to have conversations with their students about budgets or, what is a reasonable school or something like that.
Hmm.
So it really is a one-on-one relationship, and it's very individualized to what families need. The other level of support is something new that I'm really excited about. It's called the ACE Network. And this is actually something that I'm collaborating with five other experts. So there's six of us total. And this is a group model where parents will join a private group and they receive guidance within this group setting. Um, and it's a monthly subscription service. So it's much more affordable than
Hmm.
one-on-one services. And we offer monthly workshops, essay tips, scholarship tips.
Hmm.
Parents can ask really any questions that they want within this private group, and then all of the members of the group benefit from seeing those answers. So
Hmm.
it's a really collaborative space, and like I said, it's a lot more affordable because of that subscription service. So families are finding that to be a little bit more accessible and a nice entry point if one-on-one consulting isn't in their budget.
Yeah, yep. I love that, and I was so happy when we connected to be some of the founding members of the ACE network together. So that's fantastic. And yeah, just a little plug on my side. I don't know how much you do with scholarships on your main your older practice, the one-on-one, but certainly through the ACE network, they can tap into you, they can tap into me for scholarship help. We have test prep experts, and we even have a dorm room planning expert. So once you get through and get admitted and get all that stuff out of the way, you can get into some of the fun stuff from somebody who has really like an amazing amount of knowledge on how to make a dorm room look amazing.
Absolutely. We have a fantastic group of experts. It's a nice variety. And like you said, we touch on everything from test prep and scholarships and essays to dorm prep. So we really support families right up until move-in day.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Um, so for Level Up or Ace, I guess, what's the best way for people to connect with you and learn a little bit more about both of those?
Um, Best way, honestly, the quickest way is to find either of those on Facebook.
Okay.
And then from there, they can visit my website. They can reach out through email. My website is levelup-admissions.com. Um, but yeah, Facebook is the quickest and easiest way to find both of our services.
Awesome. I will, of course, put links to the Facebook, your Facebook, and your website in the show notes. Brianna,
Thank
this has
you.
been awesome. Look forward to having you back in the future. Thanks so much for coming on the Scholarship GPS podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.